Picking a streaming setup and gear that works for you is an extremely hard task. As you can see for me, I have a ridiculous amount of monitors and enough RGB to make it look like I'm not dying inside. But for real though, there is a lot of options on the market and there is a lot of expensive stuff too that you could easily skip out on and get budget versions of. Because like a lot of people, I did not have a lot of money to throw at this when I started. I needed cheap solutions but still good quality to get me going at a good level without having to break my bank just for a hobby at the time. So I decided, hey, I'm going to make an ultimate budget guide for streaming gear to help one of you that might be starting out soon or maybe have just gotten into it and want some really good gear that's great value, great quality, but without completely throwing all your money away. And I'm talking real budget stuff too. I'm not saying, hey, let's spend $1,000 on all this stuff. No, that's not budget, man. Like maybe for some people, if they're lucky, that's budget. For me, my kind of budget was like, hey, I want everything for like $100 max. But before we get into that, here is a little bonus tip for you for growth on Twitch. If you're a streamer and you're not uploading any clips from your streams, you're just limiting your own growth. Nexus Clips has an AI-powered tool that makes it quick and easy to edit clips, even if you have zero editing experience. You can simply link your channel and an AI will filter through your stream VODs and find the best possible clippable moments for you within a couple of seconds. It can even generate captions for you on its own, and it has a full editing bay that's really simple to use if you need to make any adjustments too. You can even upload and schedule your clips right from Nexus Clips itself, and it even finds you the best hashtags to post with to maximize your reach and growth based on your niche. If you want to try this for yourself so you can start uploading clips daily with super high quality and very minimal effort, I'll leave the link at the top of the description below for you, and you can use code CAL, that's C-A-L, to get 10% off of your order at checkout. And hey, that's a pretty good discount if you ask me. Now you have no excuse, so go make some clips and skyrocket your channel's growth. I'm going to focus on 3 main things here, but also some extras as well that I fully recommend that are just really, really helpful and don't cost a whole lot extra if you want some little extra bits and gubbins. But the 3 main things I mentioned are going to be audio, camera, and lighting. The reason I'm focusing on those 3 is they are the kind of baseline, I would say, for having a good quality stream that people are going to want to stick around and see.
Because if you sound really crackly, or if you look really bad and blurry, or if you're really dark and there's nothing lighting you up, it just doesn't look all that great.
So let's start with that. So the first thing for lighting that I'm going to show you is some of these bad boys. Little mini ring lights that you wouldn't think do a whole lot, but they do light you up quite a lot, especially in the dark. So let me see if I can close my curtains a sec. I like that I said let me see if I can, as if I can't close my curtains. Now it's still pretty light in here, but it's a little bit darker as you can tell. And if I just use one ring light, it kind of does a good job, you know? And I typically would have 2 of these. You can get like bigger ones, smaller ones. They do sort of warm lighting and white lighting. So you can kind of flick through them. Doesn't show very well on camera, but you kind of get the gist. I like to use the warm, more orangey lights that has a more natural skin tone. And they're very easy to mount with sort of mini little tripods like this that I would have on the desk just facing up at me because it's just cheap that way. And the beauty of those, let me open the curtains. The beauty of those are that you can get 1 or even packs of them at this point on Amazon for like $10 tops. I would recommend getting maybe 2 to have 1 on each side if it's really dark, unless you have a room light or RGB or a very bright monitor or something that works anyway. But just to get lighting out of the way, just get cheap ring lights. You don't need soft boxes. You don't need Elgato key lights out of the gate. You just do not need those. So I'm going to add those to the shopping list, which we'll look back at the end of the video. Now moving on, we're going to touch briefly on cameras. So first of all, we've got what I'm using right now to record me on, my phone. Yes, you heard that right. You can use your phone as a webcam, no matter what phone you have to a degree, unless you've got some old button phone still. But I do have a video which you can probably click on somewhere up here, which will show you how to set up your phone as a webcam using a completely free app, which will cost you nothing. So if you have an up-to-date phone that you bought within the last like 10 years that can download apps, you will be able to use your phone as a webcam. And trust me, your phone will probably be better than some of the cheap webcams that you can get, because my phone, for example, records me in 4K. That's pretty insane for a stream camera out of the gate when you're just starting, if you have a phone that can manage this. But let's say you don't. Let's say you've got a bad camera or maybe a phone that doesn't get apps that are as up to date and it doesn't look all that great. Completely fine. Let's look at a cheap webcam option for you. So the first camera I started with was this Logitech C310, which I don't have anymore, but it is a 1080p HD camera. It's nothing fancy and you can get them for like $10 to $20 typically. But this thing did me great. Here's some clips that I found of me when I was using this camera, and as you can see, it looks crisp enough that no one would really question that it was a terrible camera. I then moved on to this bad boy, which you've probably seen all over the place because a lot of people do use this one, and this is the Logitech C920. You'll notice that Logitech does appear on a few lists for budget webcams, and that's just because for a while they were at the top of the food chain of webcams for budget streamers. There are some other options as well now, but these still, they rock. They're really good. Some honorable mentions here is I believe that Razer now have one called the Kio X, which is a full HD camera for around the sort of $40 mark as well, because this one comes in at about $50. And you can get some way more in-depth cameras. I've reviewed some OBSBOT cameras on my channel as well as more to come, and those are really pretty good. They have built-in AI that can track you. But again, we're looking at budget stuff here, so we're not going to talk about those today. But I think my ultimate choice here for the webcams is the C310 that I mentioned at the start. It's the cheapest option here, and it's just great for what you need at the very beginning of streaming. So we're going to add that to the shopping list that we look back at the end. Hey, pause. If you're finding this helpful, please leave a like down below. It will help other people like you find this video. And of course, it helps me out and helps my channel grow. Thank you. Now, moving on to microphones. We're going to touch on a couple here too, and a few that I've used and tested over the years. First one in which that I tried out and started with was the Blue Snowball by Yeti, which you might know because everyone talks about these. And again, they are really good. You get them around $30 to $40, and they have good crisp audio, very easy to integrate into a streaming setup. They look the part, they look quite nice, and they're sleek and have a few different color options. Next up, a great brand in the microphone space is HyperX. A very good one to start with is the Solocast, which you can get for around the sort of $20 to $40 mark again. These are really good for podcasting, recording voiceovers, but also Twitch streaming, because you can cut out a lot of the background audio. Because one of my judgments with the Blue Yeti and the Blue Snowball mics is they did tend to pick up quite a lot of audio. It didn't really mute the sort of surroundings as much as I would kind of like it to. But the HyperX stuff is a little bit better at that, and the Solocast and the Quadcast, those are two very, very common mics that you'll hear about, but the Solocast being the cheaper of the two, very good little microphone. And now a familiar brand that you may have heard a few times in this video already is Logitech, and they have the Yeti, which is kind of like their version of the Snowball. It has some RGBs, I believe it's called like the Yeti Orb. Again, it's around the sort of $30 to $50 range, so it's a little bit higher, but another great mic, and Logitech stuff tends to last. That camera I've had for nearly 10 years now, looks beautiful as ever and will never stop working, in my opinion. It just keeps going. It's like a Nokia. And lastly, I want to talk about Fine, which is the mic that I use now. It's a K688. It's a little bit more expensive, but a very good quality mic. However, they do have cheaper versions which are just as good. So I'd recommend going and have a look at them too. They have some very cool RGB designs, some very cool gaming integrated designs that feel very Twitch streamy, for lack of a better word. And they are generally a budget brand and have some very good budget options as well. So this is a great way to get everything you need all in one go as a kit, rather than having to spend extra on a stream arm and a pop filter later after the fact. So that's going to be my biggest recommendation for the microphones. And again, we'll add that to the shopping list and look back at the end. And they're the big three: lighting, camera, and audio. Sorted. But let's look at some extras that you might need if you want to take it to the next level and have some extra little gubbins. First thing I'd recommend, stream decks or alternatives like the Ampli-Game from Fine. These are great just for shortcuts, but again, you can set this up for free by just using hotkeys in your OBS. You can go to your settings in OBS and set up hotkeys that do different things, like switch your screens and mute your mic, play a sound effect, pop up a meme or a GIF, and you can essentially make your own stream deck without spending a penny by just adding these hotkeys. If you want a video on that, let me know, because it's a great way to save spending $50 to $100 and just do it all for free in OBS or Streamlabs. The next thing is green screens. Maybe you want to remove your background of your webcam to sort of be at the bottom like a lot of bigger streamers do. Well, you can do that for free as well. There's a free app called Prism Lens where you can remove your background or add a green image, then remove it in OBS later. I have a video here on how to do that. It's about 3 minutes long if you want a quick tutorial on how to get that going. But again, you can remove your background. It runs really smoothly and you don't need any extra purchase for that. You don't have to pay for it. You don't need a free trial. It's free forever. So that's a good way to do that as well without spending an extra penny. Maybe you want some RGBs and stuff like that to light up your background. Cool. That's cheap as chips as well. You can find some very good options on sort of Amazon, places like that have meters and meters worth of RGB strips. But yes, they're a bit cheaper. They're not going to be voice activated. They're not Govee lights and they don't look as great. But if you want a nice kind of gamer looking glow in the background of your videos and streams like mine, you can do this for very, very cheap. And again, I'll add some of those to the shopping list as well. I think another thing that's worth a mention is tripods, because if you're not just doing gaming streams, or maybe you are doing gaming streams and you just need it to hold some of your stuff, I will put some links to those in the shopping list as well as some little holders for phones if you're using your phone as a camera like I do, because essentially this is my setup. I use one of these which holds the phone, a little tab there for my ring light, and then down here is the tripod, and I just sit in front of it with my Mac with my notes. And you can do that on your Twitch streams as well. But I'll leave the links to those because maybe you'll do streams that aren't always gaming. I did a Lego stream and a costume stream in the past, and again, it's just easy having the cameras further away on a tripod so it's nice and stable. And that's kind of it. I am assuming that if you are getting into streaming, you've probably already got a console, maybe a PC, laptop, assuming that you maybe have the peripherals like a keyboard, mouse, and headset already. I will leave some links to those as well in the shopping list, just in case you do need some recommendations for those as well on a bit more of a budget side of things. But my main focus, like I said, was getting you the gear that you need specifically for streaming, like your microphone, your camera, your lighting, and the extras that you might need if you do want them. So the shopping list that I mentioned, I'm going to leave a link link down in the description below, just a Amazon list full of all of these items. So if you do want to go and buy them for yourself or check out the current prices, I'll leave a list with everything I've spoken about, and I'll just throw in a bunch more too. I didn't want to overload this video too much. Also down below is my website, which has a bunch of free Twitch artwork that I've made. So if you wanted some budget gear and then some free artwork, just again, save spending any money, there's those options too. My Discord's also down there if you want to join our growing community of 200 plus now members of streamers and content creators like you, so you can help with others, get advice for yourself, and generally just have a fun time. In the meantime, here is your last chance to subscribe in this video to get more helpful content like this for your streaming journey. And here is another video that you might find helpful that you might want to watch after this one. Who knows? And above all else, I hope to see you again soon. Mwah!